It has been major news across the entire world, the amount of damage that the global economy has suffered as a result of the coronavirus. This is no different in the United States, where it has also made major headlines. Now, as a result of the damage that has suffered as a result of the virus, the United States government has announced a $1.5 trillion bailout that is coming for many of the industries and businesses across the United States. And the news of that has actually made the situation even worse. And many in those very fields, say that it is not enough to deal with the coming problem. The central bank said it would flood the markets with short term funding to address highly unusual disruptions related to the coronavirus outbreak. The announcement helped pare back losses in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which had fallen as low as 9.5%, but failed to quell the coronavirus inspired panic. The fact is, it's hitting more than the financial industry. The pandemic is mostly hurting airlines. Broadway is suffering, and as travel plans get canceled, and there's large gatherings. Anything like as we saw with the NBA, we saw with major events, they're all getting canceled as a result. And this is hurting the economy in a very large way because people are not going out and spending money. Hence, the basis of a capitalist society. You have to keep spending money and buying goods in order for the system to actually work. Now, a Thursday's drop occurred because of the speech Trump gave on Wednesday night. This is not my opinion, but the opinion of the financial experts that I did research on this. They said the way he gave the speech and what he said only served to actually fuel the amount of panic that's in the economy right now, because that's the way the economy works, on perception and not even reality. Markets will do good when they believe it will do good, and they do bad when they believe it will do bad. Not the objective actual situation, which goes into part of the irrationality of the market that, not just Marx, but other, leftist economist minded people have been pointing out for a very long time. Now, the Fed has said that it will increase its controversial $60 billion asset buying program to a range of maturities, including nominal coupons bills, treasury inflated protected securities, and floating rate notes. In other words, the Federal Reserve is going to the Fed said it's going to buy up troubled assets, which is not all too unlike the troubled asset relief program that existed during the 2008 Great Recession. Now, Trump said it's all going to bounce back. It's going to bounce back back very big at a good time. Which I'm sure a statement like that places confidence in absolutely nobody but the most deluded individuals. Now, we are looking at potentially a similar situation to what happened in 2008. Now, I say similar, but not exactly like. There isn't the major financial crisis today that we had back then. It is very different. But it's worth noting that the previous financial crisis, it's not actually known how much money was spent bailing out the capitalist system. There are estimates of how much was spent that range from $7.2 trillion to $29 trillion. Now, that high estimate comes from an organization that looked into a lot of what's often referred to as shadow banking, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the amount of money that goes out that people don't see. And this led to a rise in far-right libertarian ideas based on not exactly knowing, well, let's face it, really not knowing how the banking system works. And that's not a defense of the banks. That's a defense of how something objectively does work and what it's not doing, kind of thing. But we're looking at the same thing again. In these kinds of emergencies, socialism is always done fine. They've managed to survive without going into ridiculous free handouts to the capitalist class. Of course, major financial crises don't happen in socialist countries because they don't have major financial sectors based on betting on the future prices of things. Well, except for Cuba, which has the beginnings of that through the real estate sector of the economy, which shouldn't exist, but I digress. It is important to look at the very real situation going on. The economy is starting to suffer, so the first thing America does, and the first thing America is going to do, and it's never going to do anything else, is immediately start buying up things from the rich to prop them up. Some of the most prestigious, glorious because of hard work or whatever nonsense thing to prop them up. By contrast, when this problem broke out to an insanely greater degree in China, resources were thrown into trying to protect people. And a lot of people lamented some of the things that were going on. And I think that we weren't told the entire truth about what happened inside of China. I think that military blockades were probably very real. There were entire apartment buildings that were put on lockdown because one person had it and they were subjected to a quarantine. I believe that this really did happen. These are the kinds of measures that people are going to take in this kind of an emergency. And I think China made some hard decisions. And it's the same hard decisions that any other country in the world in that same situation would have had to face. How far are you going to go to make sure this disease doesn't wipe out the entire world or wipe out your country? How far are you going to go to protect people, even though it may seem horribly inhumane? And what have we seen as a result? They got it mostly under control. The infection rate is dropping. They were proven to be correct in what they did. Now that pandemic is hitting the rest of the world as well, particularly Italy. It's going to hit Spain, it's hitting the United States. And now Norway is under lockdown. Although, interestingly, Canada isn't suffering that much for now. For now. That could very, very well change. I know in my region, in the Niagara region, we're already building 2 coronavirus identification centers or whatever, and we don't even have a case of it. So it's nice to see that they're getting ahead of this. But what does this stand in contrast to? What the United States is doing, which is almost jack shit. Really, they're just dealing with this by putting out as little effort as possible. Yeah, they've called for a couple, emergency situations in cities, but they have not taken the necessary precautions to try to prevent this. The CDC has criticized the U.S. government. The World Health Organization has criticized the government. Medical, professional virology people all across the world have criticized the United States for not doing enough. But where's all the effort going? Where's all the money going? Is the money going into more N95 masks, or at least the ability to produce more N95 masks? They're kind of really, really important. No, they're buying up properties and propping up the rich. I mean, it blows my friggin' mind that's what's going on. I mean, it shouldn't blow my mind. It should be very obvious. But that's where the whole system is going. That is the whole flavor, the essence of capitalism is going directly into this, into helping the rich, not the people that are suffering from the coronavirus or even putting enough effort into trying to stop the spread of the coronavirus. The CDC has already said that they could expect a worst case scenario of 150 million infected Americans. That doesn't mean that's going to happen. That just means that's the worst that they think could happen. and they're going to do what they can to prevent that from happening. So there's no need to have any kind of alarmism over that. So don't get, crazy ideas in your head because of that. Any rational person, any rational organization would prepare for a worst case scenario and would try to figure out what that scenario is. It is perfectly reasonable to do so. But what's not reasonable to do so is to throw all your effort in trying to protect the pockets of the rich. Not even the health of the rich. Their pockets, their money. They're not even putting money out in to help them with their own health. Okay, look at that. We've probably all seen that meme where this is that the average cost of for a person who wants to coronavirus test without insurance, it's like $3,270. And a person said, well, a way around that is to go cough on a rich person and have the rich person get the test. And there's that Dave Chappelle meme. American problems require American solutions. I mean, that's almost something you're going to have to do if this keeps going the way it is. I mean, what is the absurdist, parody of America kind of keeps happening in real life. When parody or like the absurdity cannot keep up with reality, there's a term for that, and I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm not getting it. But look at what we're seeing. We're seeing $1.5 trillion go into the actual capitalist economy, to the pockets of the wealthy elite, and not on trying to prevent the spread of the virus. Are we looking at the possible financial destruction of the United States? Maybe. Personally, I sincerely doubt it. I think in the end, capitalism will survive. But we're going to learn a very harsh lesson from this. And maybe it'll start to wake up some people that it's not the guys in Washington. It's not the guys in the boardroom. They're only a symptom of the actual problem. And that actual problem is capitalism itself.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.